All right, we are now going to head into some things that I think, in theory, you should know by the time you're 30. Now, I hear a lot of people saying this in my comments on my YouTube channel. Oh, wow, I'm over 30 and I didn't even know this. That's the whole point of things you should know before you're 30, because a lot of times we're not taught these things because our parents and our grandparents weren't necessarily taught those things. And I think it's really, really cool to share them because you never know, like, different families do things different ways. Who's to say what's better or what's worse? Decide for yourself, you know? I don't like that whole toxic trend that we have where, oh, all the old ways are bad. You've got to do it this way now. It's like, just because it's an old way doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong or bad. Like, who are you to say that, you know? But there are different ways to do things, and some things were actually invented and built a certain way for certain reasons. Like we discovered in a previous episode of Things You Should Know Before You're 30 about the mustard cap. A cap on a mustard is actually engineered a different way with a different design compared to other caps for things like relish, ketchup, and other condiments. And you think yourself, why? Well, there was actually a reason. So if you did not see that episode, definitely be on my YouTube channel to follow along because we have parts 1, 2, and 3. I believe this will be part 4. So you can learn all kinds of different things with us as we traverse the world of things that you should know before you're 30. And don't feel bad if you're over 30 because there were some things that I learned on here and I am over 30. All right, here we go. Things that I think you should know in theory by the time you're 30. Here is a really good way to figure out who is selling your data. Now, that is a phrase that you will hear a lot. Oh, selling data, data mining, and all this other stuff. And you might not understand what's the big deal, right? Well, the big deal is how mining your data and how you spend your time on the internet could ultimately lead to things that will steal your identity, destroy your credit, and possibly end up with you going to prison for things that you didn't even know were happening because you weren't the one doing them, because your data was mined and someone found your personal information or found out where you lived and all kinds of different scary things that can go along with that scenario. So this is something that I learned that I myself have done, and it actually works. So have you ever found yourself buying things online or downloading apps where you have to register or at least put in your basic information, like what's your email address, create a password, and what's your first and last name? Well, a good way to figure out who and what companies and what websites are selling your data for profit for people that want to figure out all your stuff is this. When you have to register and or pay for something online, or just it wants to give a basic profile for you to use the app, this is what you should do, okay? Put everything under the same email, if possible. And then what you're going to do is when it's where it says put your first name, put your first name. And in the part where it says put your last name, put the company that this is actually. So for example, if it's say Walmart, and your name is Joy, you put your first name is Joy, your last name is Walmart. That way, when you start getting emails and it says Joy Walmart, you'll find out that Walmart was selling your data. The same thing applies for Amazon. If your name is James and you're buying something on Amazon, oh, this notice is for James Amazon. Now you know that Amazon was the one selling your data. Very easy to track this way and figure out where your personal information is going, be it your name, your address, your social security number, or, you know, access to your bank account, your credit card, your PayPal. There's all kinds of apps in your app store that are actually stealing your data through things like wanting your Facebook information, which in the metaverse can be linked to your PayPal, your emails that are linked to your bank, and all these other things. So this is one way to ensure at least a little bit more privacy and figure out which stuff you should avoid. Next thing that I think that you should know in theory by the time you're 30. This is for anybody that has long hair or has children that has long hair. This is for you, okay? A quick little backstory. When we were doing the first ever Women of Honor pay-per-view, which was live from Baltimore before an ROH taping, we saw a girl in the locker room that was just pulling a brush through her hair. It was so bad, like you could hear the hair crying. And like she was like ripping through knots in her hair. And I remember Kelly Klein and myself were like, you know, especially if you don't have a lot of hair. It's like, so we ended up showing the girl that you're actually supposed to take your ends, hold your ends, and start from your ends, and then slowly work your brush up your hair until you've gotten all the knots out, and then you can brush your hair from your scalp all the way down to your ends. This ensures that you're not actually ripping and causing breakage in your hair and actually pulling your hair out from your scalp, which is painful. Okay, and it leads to hair loss and damage of your hair, and then it starts looking all right. And what's really, really cool is that girl's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. And I was like, don't even worry about it, because most of us didn't either until, you know, someone told us. And I don't think that that's something that's taught in any way that can make it easier for you to do children's hair is a must. As a former preschool teacher, I can tell you I spent a lot of time fixing little kids' hair so I didn't send them home looking like like they just woke up from nap. This was really cool because that girl ended up, you know, her life didn't turn out, her dream didn't turn out exactly the way she wanted, but she's still living it in a certain aspect, and seeing her get to positively contribute to that and being happy and being the best version of herself while doing that has been really awesome to see. We're still connected on social media. Okay, next thing is for anybody that has an Adam's apple, okay? I have seen a lot of men who don't actually know this. You know, sometimes when you're shaving and you're trying to shave whatever and you end up cutting yourself because of your Adam's apple, well, apparently this is how you can try to help lessen that odd, right? So when you are going to shave right here and you have to go over your Adam's apple, try swallowing at the same exact time that you are bringing your razor to that area. This will actually temporarily flatten that area just long enough for you to get your razor over that, and kind of lessens the possibility that you are actually going to cut yourself while shaving that area. For women, it's honestly a very similar situation to where we're shaving around our ankle. It's a little bit of a complex area that oftentimes will cut with the razor. Very, very similar situation, and that is one way in which you can try to not do that. Another thing that I think that you should know in theory by the time you're 30 is certain things that are in your home that are actually flammable. First things first on the docket is pistachios. Did you guys know that huge, massive quantities of pistachios are actually flammable? It's true. It's apparently attributed to the massively high fat content that are in pistachios. So while this may not necessarily be an issue at home, if you're a person that actually works in a factory that handles massive amounts of pistachios, that is something you are probably actually aware of. Another thing in your home that is massively flammable is lint from your dryer. Lint from your dryer is one of the main reasons why you are supposed to clean the lint trap, clean the big piping thing that goes through into the whole of your house for the exhaust, as well as the fact that you can use lint to start fires, say bring it camping or your fire pit in your backyard, so forth and so on. This is also why it's recommended that you do not run your washer and dryer without being home. A lot of house fires have actually started when the homeowners were not home from the dryer and a lint trap that was not cleaned. Another thing that is flammable in your home are certain batteries found in some of your favorite toys, be it tools, children's toys, and so forth. You want to look for the UL certification on the back of the label of the battery to make sure that those things sitting in your garage or in your children's rooms and playrooms are not actually going to spontaneously combust like massive amounts of pistachios. All right, everyone, this is the last thing today for the segment, things that I think you should know by the time you're 30. And this is a big one. It goes along the similar lines of selling your data. So the USPS Postal Service actually warns you against this, but I'm not sure how many people actually have seen this warning. They warn to not put your mail in those big blue drop boxes in outside locations on Sundays and or federal holidays, because what happens is those big blue mail drop boxes are left unattended throughout that period of time, and those would be the longest periods of time that they are unattended, and they have now become topics and targets for things like theft and check washing. So that is something you're going to want to pay attention to. If possible, instead of on a Sunday or on a federal holiday, drop it off on a day where they're actually going to have pickup, or if that's not possible, use your key or the open doors to actually go to the bins that are inside your USPS location. All right, everyone, and those are the things for this week that I think you should know in theory by the time you're 30.